actually trying to just get the book to the finish line. When you're doing a science communication project, you realize that you really have to define particularly who is going to be your audience and how you're going to talk to them. Because of the big group, you also realize that the scientific facts have to be correct, because this is what your main message. And due to this big group, you can also criticize and change the facts that would complete the story. Also, all the stories that were written, it can also tell you about the cultural differences or the cultural inspiration that people bring from their own background. You also realize where you have a language that is spoken in many countries. Sometimes there are small differences that mean different things, such as the big group from Latin America that was involved in the Spanish translation, or also the group that was involved in the Portuguese translations. The most important part of your science communication is to test it. And in our case, it was to send the stories to teachers who could review the stories, who could read it, who could give it to their students, to their pupils. And we got reviews saying this is wonderful, because it's not only about telling the students about science, it also tells them about geography and changes their skills regarding to language. And another important understanding that we got is that when you're an international student abroad, you can also meet your community to transfer to them the science. There are many people coming to different countries for different reasons, not only to do science. And you can also use those internal communities to try and transfer your message to them. So after the past 4 years, we realized that we want to continue. And on the 1st of January, we're going to have the next book published also in English, German, and Spanish. There are going to be new topics such as marine technology, endangered species, and also paleoclimate or marine bacteria. And if you want, you can follow us on internet and Twitter. We are publishing sneak peeks. Sorry, not on internet, on Instagram and Twitter. We are publishing sneak peeks for the Christmas Advent calendar, but also next week starting for Hanukkah. I think the most important part of this presentation today is how can you do science communication if you like it. Science communication is not marketing your science. It's something very different. It's about conveying your message of what you do in a very clear way. And if you think, well, I don't have the time to do this, then I say, if you're a student, you have time to do this. If you're going into Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, all you need to do is, whether it is about your research or others' research, you need to answer 3 questions in more or less 1 line, and then try to just put it out there. Of course, that any nice picture that would bring that message in a clear way would be very helpful. If you're a researcher, then I urge you to read the Communicating Science Effectively, a research agenda of the US National Academy of Sciences. And try to treat it as a research project, perhaps something that your entire group can do together. Really form a hypothesis of what is the clear message that you want to bring, how you can bring it out there, and take it from there forward. If you think you have more time, but you don't know where to start or what to do, there are many things you can do. You can, for example, join to a project. You're more than welcome to send to the Once Upon a Time an email. You can go and look into science communication conferences and see what other people are doing and how they're doing it. You can look into specific journals, blogs, podcasts. You can also do poetry and games. But whatever you decide to do, you need to define your clear scientific message. You have to define who is your audience. Seriously, going into the details, if you're going to do science in pubs, who exactly is the audience that's going to come to that pub? Is it going to be students from the Technion, or is it going to be people who live in another city that has no scientific institutes? Because this would be a completely different message. And also test it. Test it with your family and your friends, the people who are going to be your audience. And if you see their eyes going glazy, then something is not good. Either your message is not clear enough, or your audience is not picked with exactly to the right level. So thank you very much, and you're more than welcome to ask questions. I will put the links below, and let me know what you think.
Adele, thank you very, very much. This was beautiful. Um, does anyone in the audience want to ask a question or write it in the chat? Because I have some question too. I didn't understand. You did it when you were there
Yes, I was there as a research stay for 3 years, and
in
now,
Germany,
yes, in Germany. Yes.
and all these people that just came here from all over the world. What? How?
So MARIM is a Marine Sciences Institute, Marine Research Institute, and people are coming there specifically to do their PhD or their postdoc. And you have different groups doing different kind of marine geosciences, and you meet them in coffee breaks, in the halls, on lunch. And that year, the Ministry of Education, when they sent this request or this competition, it was a competition where they picked between hundreds of groups, 10 groups, and they got a budget, each group of 10,000 euros, to create their science communication project. So a person who read that email, a German person, because it was published in German, told us about it, and then we started talking about it in a lunch break, and then someone said, "Oh, I know this person, I know that person," and we brought at the end people who knows about people who wrote stories, who are doing research about corals, coral bleaching, research about plastic pollution in the oceans, people who are doing research in foraminifera and all sort of stuff. We have different stories. Stories
Stories
in
we all have, but where did you get this artist? The art is amazing.
So all the budget, all the 10,000 euros actually went to the artist. We did everything as scientists, everything voluntarily. So we put a request. Actually, that was another way to reach out to the local community, because we wanted the money also to go to local people. So I found, for example, an Israeli artist who immigrated to Germany. Other people, the Latina community found in the Latina community artists who immigrated to Germany, but also German artists. This is perhaps working for against and for our project or the book, because you have various graphic styles in the book, but also various poetry style and various story style. You have science fiction talking about climate ghosts. So there's a story about climate ghostbusters, where there are also a very fast and furious sort of style of a story. So you have all sorts of stories there, and the idea is actually either to talk about the scientific results, about the discovery of things in the ocean, or also what a scientist is doing. This was another important message for us to bring out there.
That's beautiful. So is it available in the so it's either a website where we can see this book
Yes, I'm
or
going to put now on the chat the website and also links to everything that I mentioned
excellent.
in
And
the.
also send it to me so I will forward it to the entire school community, to people that didn't come. Thank
Sure.
you very much, Hadar. This was beautiful, very inspiring.
What about Hebrew translation?
Yes,
So I'm doing it all alone. If anyone is interested in helping, I have half of the stories ready. So this is why I said hopefully by the summer I will have it already in Hebrew.
excellent. Good luck, Hadar.
It's a beautiful project, Hadar. Really nice. ממש יפה.
Thanks.
Okay, so that was Hadar. And now, just a second. Um, the next speaker. Now we want to hear from the next speaker. This is Professor Dror Angel from the Maritime Civilization Department. Dror is a marine ecologist with interest in the wide range of environmental topics. His lab, the Applied Marine Biological and Ecological Research Lab, studies marine invertebrates with a focus on the interaction between humans and the marine environment. Dror's career began on land, studying soil and water science at the Faculty of Agriculture in Rehovot, Israel. Then he made a dramatic switch to biological oceanography that he studied at the City University of New York. Dror explored gelatinous zooplankton in his PhD, which involved hundreds of dives in the Atlantic Ocean and in the Caribbean Sea. someone had to do that, right? Dror, someone had to do this work. He brought that passion to the University of Haifa, where he studies a variety of jellyfish species. Dror will tell us today about the citizen science initiative that he leads, Jellyfish Inc., or Meduzot Ba'am in Hebrew, from which this beautiful Popita image is taken. Dror, please, the stage is yours.
Thanks a lot. I don't think I can share the screen because somebody else needs to stop.
You can share the screen.
Let me see. Okay, yeah, now it works. Thank you, Smadal, and thanks for the sort of introduction to the topic, Adal. The connection between science communication and citizen science is actually pretty strong, because we're trying to convey to the public what we do. Oftentimes it's really a question of, do we have the excitement, the passion to convey that to the public? And if we do, that oftentimes gets other people interested and excited. And so I'll speak about something which began as something which wasn't really intentional. It just evolved, and together with Dor, Edelist, and a number of others that were part of the team, we created this app and website and activity that's mushroomed into a lot more than it was initially begun. So what is citizen science? Many of you probably don't know, because it's something which has a flavor of social science, and many of the people in the crowd here are natural scientists. So we're talking about the interaction between people from the general public and scientists, the scientific community. And it's a field which is not very old. It's only the late 1980s and early 90s that people began to speak about citizen science, even though people have been doing citizen science for eons. But as a formal field of study and of effort, it's something which is quite recent. And there's a lot of debate about what citizen science really is and what it should be. There's all sorts of things that come with citizen science, which I'll describe in a few slides to make it a bit clear what we're talking about. But there's all sorts of advantages that one can gain from working with the public. We can reach kids and the public at large. So we've got an opportunity to educate and to disseminate what we're doing. If we need volunteers, there are often people who are ready to or willing to do things, especially if it involves going outdoors into the field. So we can get volunteers that will increase our geographic coverage if we're limited both spatially and temporally. We have the opportunity to interest people and get them to maybe decide to become scientists if they never thought about that. There's all sorts of issues that affect the public, the citizens at large. And so by being involved, they actually have a way of influencing the world around them. Together with the pros come all sorts of cons. And so as you can see at the very bottom, many of our colleagues poo-poo citizen science. They say this is not real science, this is pseudoscience, etc., which I tend to disagree with. They say that the people in the public are amateurs, they work inaccurately, they're not always available, so it's inconsistent science, they're unreliable, unavailable, etc., etc. And so there are some issues that really are part of working with people who are not necessarily trained in doing science, but everybody who can ask a question, to my mind, is a scientist. And so it's a question of definition and how you approach this. It all really began about 15 years ago when I came to University of Haifa, and I asked what's being done about jellyfish in the Mediterranean. And I discovered that people report the jellyfish, they complain about them, but not an awful lot was known. And so we began to study them, and we found that if we didn't have access to the sea or to boats, we were limited. And so we began to think about how we could reach the public and get the public involved as well. And this is the beginning of our outreach and our involvement of the public and citizen science. And one of the things that we did was we created this website, which was done sort of on the fly and the wrong way, as we discovered, of course, at the beginning. And we tried to get people to report on jellyfish that they saw at sea. So we established a website, we encouraged people to report, and we found that a lot of people were going to sea, but very few people wanted to report. It was a pain, the website wasn't suitable. And then we wanted to see how we could get more people to report, how we could increase the reliability of the reports. And one of the biggest challenges that we dealt with was, how do we get people that go to the sea and see no jellyfish to report we didn't see jellyfish? It's sort of counterintuitive to the sort of science we do, which is usually counting things that we can see and not what we don't see. So there were all sorts of cool things that we learned along the way. And at some point, I don't remember how exactly we met with them, but we became involved with people at the School of Education at the university. And they saw the project that we were doing, this jellyfish ink or Medusat Ba'am activity, as something which was really citizen science to them. And they asked us to join them in their efforts. And we would meet with teachers and we would meet with educators and speak about some of these issues which came up from our side as scientists, and which are every bit a part of this whole challenge of how to do science together with people who are not trained scientists. And fortunately, they got a big grant, and so they could also do a bit more with this grant in terms of encouraging citizen science type of activities. And one of the things that we did is we took on a class or a number of classes at the religious school, public school in Naharia, which to us was a sort of contrast in terms, because these folks don't go out to sea, to nature very much. And we managed to get them to go out to sea, to even go swimming in the sea, teachers as well as kids, and to become really enthusiastic about this. And you can see one of the meetings here where we sat and discussed with the kids and the teachers the whole topic. This was really something which surprised us. A bunch of kids came to the university, so they got exposure not just to the topic, but also to higher education and the university. And who knows, maybe some of those kids will end up at the university at some point in the future. One of the people at the Department of Education is doing a PhD. She was accompanying this thing, so she's got a project. I was invited to be a co-advisor. I decided it was a bit too far from my field, so I didn't join that, but we've been doing things that have contributed to her project for sure. We've gathered a lot of information via the website, and this is information which mostly has been contributed by non-scientists. There are obviously some scientists involved as well, and we've generated data that, as you can see here, run at the moment, they span at least 10 or 11 years. We're talking about jellyfish, about ctenophores, about all sorts of groups that people have learned to see and recognize and identify and report on. And we've got a paper that came out this year on data which was generated by this citizen science effort, this project. And there are more papers that are in the works. We've got an EU project which is using the citizen science we've generated in a way which will help us to understand more about the swarms of jellyfish that we see at sea. So we're talking about citizen science and at the same time hard science. So it really goes hand in hand, and this is something you can read more about if somebody has time. We joined up with the Society for the Ecological Society in Israel, and a lot of the efforts are being done with them because they're very, very enthusiastic about doing citizen science, and we got some funding for that as well. You can see a poster here that helps the public identify those jellyfish that we see at sea, and to report more on the website and on the app. And you can see this is during one of the activities, a cleanup activity on one of the Haifa beaches, and this featured there, as well as on all sorts of surf clubs, dive clubs, etc. So we're getting the word out. We're getting people involved as much as possible, and the reporting has increased. In addition, people get stung when they go to the beach by jellyfish or not by jellyfish. It's not very clear. We've got a survey that's out there that's probing the public, and we've got people getting involved and helping us learn more about the stings that we experience now for almost 50 years in the Mediterranean, and yet we have no solution for. So hopefully through some cooperation with some medical doctors, we'll get some more understanding and maybe some solutions that we can offer the public as part of this effort. And there's a jellyfish contest, a photo contest that we're putting out that starts in a couple of days. And so anybody who's taken photos underwater or on the beach of jellyfish is invited to submit their photographs, and there'll be nice prizes for the best photos that are contributed. And I think the bottom line of this whole effort is that we began research trying to understand more about an ecological phenomenon that occurs here in the Eastern Med, trying to understand more about the environment that enabled these jellyfish to bloom as they have, and is, as I said, mushroomed into a really multidisciplinary project which involves the public as well. And it's been a lot of fun, and we're still on the way. So we're learning how to do the science in a way that is conducive to the public as well as other scientists. And we're learning all the time. And so with this, I just want to thank you for listening. And if there are questions, you can get my email through Smadal or someone else, or ask the questions now if you'd like.
Thank you very much, Dror. It was beautiful. It's really inspiring what you do. Anyone want to ask questions? Comment?
Is there a network of jellyfish observations from all over the Mediterranean, or Israel is the only country that's doing this?
There's a network. Unfortunately, it doesn't work very well. So there are a number of countries around the Mediterranean that have been part of this project. It varies in terms of the intensity, quality, etc. Our website has a lot more hits for the Israeli coast, but we can, of course, compare notes with other colleagues in other parts of the Med. But there is no real network of all the countries around the Med. So these are particular countries that are part of a project which was funded a number of years ago, and the data are very variable. It's not as consistent as we would like. Yeah, but there is an international network of jellyfish scientists that get together every few years, mostly focusing on jellyfish blooms, but on the way, we also discuss all the other issues that come with jellyfish.
What I'm shocked is from the fact that people go to the beach and then they go to the computer to report about the jellyfish. They say, how did you make them? So how many, just to get the numbers, how many people report? Because I don't see myself going to the computer after being stung by a jellyfish, but how do you make people do that?
So we've had several million hits, people
Wow.
entering the website and coming to visit and that sort of thing. Partly because we also appear, the map that we generate also appears on YNet each year, and so it's a big source of hits. We've had many thousands of people who've reported. Some people report very frequently. Some of the people that are in the audience here are reporters. Judith is an example of one, and we have many others that are in the crowd, in the audience, that have reported consistently and very nicely. They also send in photos, so it's very exciting. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's beautiful how, I think it's amazing, those stories, like how you reach out to educate others and then you gain so much from it. That's really inspiring. Any other questions? So if you don't, Hadar, you
have plans to make it into an app?
There is an app. Actually, there's an app as well. I mean, just because there's so much to talk about, I didn't mention it, but this this summer, an app came out as well. So first of all, the website can be accessed via the smartphone. But in addition, there's an app which I'll be happy to circulate in this crowd sometime soon, so that people can put that onto their phone as well. And this way, you don't need to go home to your computer, Smadal. You can do it on the beach if you've got your cell phone with you. Thank you, Adele.
That sounds much more effective. Yeah. So maybe you send it to me, and I will send to
Will
everyone.
do.
Yeah.
Happily to, yeah.
So thank you very much, Ro. That was really fascinating. Let me just. I made this very nice slide.
Just a small remark. I wouldn't be a student at the Institute if not for Medusot Ba'am.
That's really, really direct compliment. Ro.
Nice to hear.
Thanks, Judith.
That's amazing, amazing. Reach out, work it. So our last speaker for today is Dr. Aaron Frimerman. Well, Aaron is a real doctor, that is a medical doctor. Not that we are not real, but he is a cardiologist, and he is working at the head of the interventional cardiology unit in the Hillel Yaffe Medical Center in Hadar. This semester, he began his first year as a master's student in the Department of Maritime Civilizations. Years ago, when he studied at the Technion Faculty of Medicine, he joined the activity of the Department of Maritime Civilizations as a free auditor, including underwater excavation and sailing in the Mediterranean Sea. Now he has the time to expand his knowledge in this exciting field. He is a skipper, and he has sailed across the Atlantic Ocean twice. He has a racing yacht, and with his crew, they won the Israeli State Sailing Championships several times. But today we'll tell us about something else. He will tell us about the medical aid delegation to Papua New Guinea, which is this island you see on the map here. This story is not exactly about science so much, but it's about giving back. And I found it highly relevant to the goal of the seminar, which is getting out of our comfort zone to help others. So Aaron, please tell us about this journey. I will stop sharing and you can share your screen.
Where's my presentation? Oh, here it is. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Aaron, and I was trained and work as an interventional cardiology for the last 30 years. This is the heart catheterization unit. It is my regular working environment, packed with the most advanced medical technology, where I'm busy mainly opening blocked arteries in the heart of my patient.
Wow.
On March 2018, I found myself far away from my regular working environment on a remote beach in Papua New Guinea. Though I'm looking like a happy camper, you can still see a hint that it is still on a medical mission. I carry a stethoscope on my shoulders. So how come? It's all began years ago in 1980. At that time, I was a medical student, and since I was medic in the army, I volunteered as a medic to the Israeli medical delegation to the Cambodian refugee, and I became a good friend of Professor Mick Elkan, the leader of our delegation. And here you can see us years ago, me and Mick. In Sakeo refugee camp on the Cambodian border with Thailand, we treated many people that suffered from malnutrition, malaria, tropical parasite, combat trauma, mainly from mines, and more. For me, it was a very powerful human, medical, and cultural experience that inspires me for many years to come. Almost without noticing, 35 years elapsed, and one day Mick told me he has an offer I cannot refuse. First, I say, okay. Then I ask him what the offer is. Mick told me about a very interesting group. This is YAWM. YAWM stands for Youth with a Mission. It's a Christian missionary outreach group. It's the purpose is to know God and to make him known. It's missionary group. YAWM used ships to bring physical and spiritual healing to the poor and needy. And they have 21 ships that have provided surgery, dental care, medical supply, food seeds, construction material, the development project, training, and their mission message to the isolated island and rivers of the world. So our destination, we volunteered to this YAWM mission, and their next mission was in New Guinea. This is the second largest island in the world after Greenland, and situated between Australia and Indonesia. New Guinea was divided by the European colonialism by a straight line. So west of longitudinal line 141 east, this is Indonesia with Muslim population, and east to this line, it's Papua New Guinea, where the population practicing mainly combination of Christianity and paganism. The mission focused on the most southeast part of Papua New Guinea, mainly in this island called the Entra Castor Island, named after the French navigator Anthony Raymond Joseph de Bruni de Entra Castor, who passed through this area in 1792. Almost one century later, in 1874, Admiral John Moresby became the first European to make landfall on the island, and he named them after his colleague in the British Navy. Goodenough, this is Goodenough Island, Ferguson, and Norman Bay. I would like to maybe you know that the capital of Papua New Guinea, the name of it is Port Moresby, after Admiral John Moresby. So Papua New Guinea is a sovereign state that occupied the eastern half of the island of New Guinea. The Papua New Guinea established its sovereignty in 1975 after 60 years of Australian administration. It is a hot and humid climate, mostly covered by tropical rainforest. PNG is the world's third largest island country with almost 500,000 square kilometers, including 1,100 islands situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Volcanoes eruptions and earthquakes are relatively common. A spine of mountain runs the length of the island, cut by deep valleys with no land communication. This geography made the most heterogeneous nation in the world, with hundreds of ethnic groups, making population of 8 million, with 800 totally different languages. They don't understand each other. The primary lingua franca of the country is Tok Pisin, and the official language is English. So I want to give you an example of this Tok Pisin. If I want to present myself, I say like this: name belong me, Aaron. Place belong me, Israel. Whenever they hear Israel, they clap, and there was a very big enthusiasm. So here you can see the strait between Goodenough Island to the left and Ferguson Island to the right. If you can get rid of the unbearable high temperature, the humidity, and the billions of mosquitoes, this could have been the ultimate paradise. YAWM's ship is a catamaran, so it can anchor very close to the beach, and the medical team get on shore by a fast inflatable motor dinghy. Every morning, this was morning routine. After, of course, prayer, the head of the ship summarized the last day and planned for the current day. And we gathered together in our group, which was called Primary Healthcare, and we for briefing by Gabi. Gabi, she is 26 years old, and she was the leader of our group. And here you can see me, Mick, this is Nozomi, a very unique Japanese pediatrician. We had nurses, we had midwife, and we had a physical therapist. Heavily loaded with medical equipment and medication, the boat rushed to shore. On arrival to the shore, we get to a welcome dance known as Sing Sing. I hope you'll be able to see this. We improvise clinics in places like local church or local market after pushing aside the chickens and the pigs or under provisional shade. Anyhow, whenever we reach, we were the best show in town. I like best the clinic under a very big mimosa tree by a beautiful bay. Here we deployed our primary care of the yellow team. We had a pediatric corner, waiting place on a local boat, and we also got a local expert to help us to consult about the local problem. This is the optometrist team that examine the site and provide spectacles that are in this place. It's a life changer for many people. Very quickly, I gained old skills and learned that to use a stethoscope is like a bicycle. You never forget how to use it. What were our diagnostic tools? First, our clinical experience, and then we had stethoscope, of course. And I have an example of this timid child. He was brought in because of asthma. On my request, he inflated the orange balloon easily, so asthma was excluded. And I gained his confidence to examine his heart with a mobile echocardiogram I brought with me. We had also a field malaria and syphilis diagnostic kit. Why syphilis? I'll show you later. And we had on the ship tuberculosis diagnostic lab with a technician specialized in this. So what were our medical challenges? Malaria was our main concern. This is one of the leading causes of death worldwide, but since it affects the most poverty-stricken society, no pharma company bothered to develop effective vaccine to malaria. We had a specific diagnostic kit and medication to treat this lethal disease. We also treated tuberculosis, leprosy, tropical parasite, tropical ulcer, all kinds of infections, trauma, and so on. I want to give you some example of this diagnosis and treatment. So in one village, we saw several people with elephant-like legs. I had never seen this phenomenon, but I recalled a vague memory from my medical school. This is elephantiasis, caused by a parasite called Wuchereria bancrofti. His name also all of a sudden came up to me. This parasite blocks the lymphatic flow and causes these elephant-like legs. Luckily enough, we had a specific medication in our boat, and we gave it to the whole village. Again, so what is this? For me, it was like going back to the time of the Bible. This is leprosy. It has a typical body changes, and the treatment, we have the medication is by rifampicin and dapsone for 6 months. It was also critical to differentiate between these two types of skin lesion. The tropical ulcer in the upper panel are quite easily to treat by cleaning and antiseptic cream and bandage. On the other end, This thing that called YAWS, it's caused by bacteria close to syphilis, and it can cause muscle and bone destruction. So it was very important to make the diagnosis, and we made it by using a syphilis kit, and we treated by penicillin shots. The people in PNG love to chew betel nut. This betel nut causes mood elation. It's like the gut for the Yemenite, and at the same time, a secretion of plenty red saliva, as you can see. And they spit this saliva all over, and most of the ground in Papua New Guinea, they have this red mark because they are spitting all over. But it causes also a severe medical problem because it causes a severe teeth damage and also palate cancer. Coming back to the ship, from a long tiring day, we had this floating market where you can find local fruits and small handmade crafts of your choice. This boat, which are a really beautiful boat, very easy to perfect. In one day, you can have such boat. It's very easy, it's very fast, and you can see there are many families using these little boats. At the end of the day, relaxing on the top of the ship, this was the view around us. So to sum up our total activity, according to the statistic of YAWM, only in our mission. So we had 220 volunteers from 16 countries. The mean age is 32, so it's youth with a mission. We sail around PNG around 1,200 kilometers. We visited 33 villages. We treated more than 3,500 people. Children vaccination above 1,000. Dental care, we had teeth extraction, cavity filling, optometry cases. We gave more than 1,500 spectacles, education, health education, family planning, pregnancy, soap given, water tank fix, and last but not least, new testimony given 39. So I believe you want to ask me how medicine and the sea join up for me. So my answer is that medicine is the art that helps to support and maintain life. The sea is the place to experience life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. That was beautiful. Yeah. Anyone wants to ask questions? Because I always have questions. But...
What about the cannibalism? You wrote something about cannibalism. Right. Ask you later.
Okay, this is a big story because Papua New Guinea, it's known for some, there are some reports about cannibalism. And it turned out that there are two kinds of cannibalism there. One is called exogenic cannibalism, meaning you eat part of your enemies that you kill to gain their power. And now it's not allowed to do like this. And there is the endogenous cannibalism. People used to eat their relative when they die in order to internalize the relative. And there was a very interesting story that in Papua New Guinea during the 60s of the last millennium, they had a terrible neurological disease, lethal disease. People were dying from this. They call it kuru. And it turned out that this was a disease of women and children. Why? Because they got the worst part of the relative to eat. And what is this? This is the brain. And eating the brain, they transmit a protein called prion that causes a disease that is similar to the mad cow disease, and or Jacob Creutzfeldt in our jargon. And since they found out the connection between eating the brain of the relative, it's not allowed to do it anymore. But from time to time, you can hear the report about going back to this practice.
Unbelievable. What I wanted to ask you, so how long did it last? How much time did you stay there?
I stayed in Papua New Guinea for 1 month, and the mission was 3 weeks. And we stay every evening. We were lucky that every evening we can go back to the ship and to have a decent shower and to use it and to refresh in the air conditioning in our cabins.
So before and after you were there are no doctors, there are no medical care for these people?
There are, but they don't have the means to distribute it, to bring it to the remote, the far away and remote islands. And actually, this is a joint, it's a combination of from Papua New Guinea government and YAWM to work together and to bring health support to the remote places. They have, but like in the most important city, this area, Alotau, I visited the local hospital, and you don't want to be a patient in this hospital.
Wow.
I have a question. Is YAWM still operating now?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I was planning to join them actually this December, but it was postponed to other time because of the corona. So I hope I'll be able to join to another mission when this pandemic will leave us, luckily, hopefully.
And is it specific to Papua New Guinea, or it operates also in other areas?
This boat, Papua New Guinea, it's only Papua New Guinea, but they have many boats operating in other places. They have 21 ships going around the world and doing something very similar to what we have done. And I mean, they get volunteers, not only medical people, they get volunteers from like people to support their activity, and everybody can volunteer. You can go, they have internet site, you can go in, you can see YAWM, and you can volunteer. There are many places they are looking for many people from all over the world, not only for medical purposes.
That's what I wanted to ask you, and thank you, Kiara, because I wanted to ask if you ask only people with medical background, if you say everyone can join.
As I say, everyone can join.
That's beautiful. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so if you can send me the link to the I think everyone can Google it, but still send me the link and I will forward all the information. Beautiful, very interesting and inspiring data that you shared with us. Thank you very much, Aaron, Dror, and Hadar. This was really, really beautiful, very inspiring, a feel-good seminar. So thank you very much, and see you all in a month in our next seminar. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron,
Thank
and
you
all
very
the people are really
Thank you,
complimenting you in the chat. Look at the chat, all the speakers. It's in the bottom. Just press on the chat. Yeah.
Came out of the.
So you press the chat, and then it's But if you go up, you see many. I think I will get the download of. I mean, I will get a file. Many people were really thankful for that. They thought that the talk was very, very educating.
I don't somehow I don't see it. Don't know why.
אתה רואה למטה, ליד הירוק הזה, יש שם צ'אט, אתה לוחץ עליה.
Actually, I came out of the Zoom area. Just a minute. No.
לא?
It disappeared.
זה בטח מופיע לך במסך למעלה. אני חושבת שאני אקבל את הצ'אט את הפייל של הצ'אט בסוף, כי תמיד אני מקבלת את זה ואז אני אשלח לך את זה.
משום מה זה זרק אותי החוצה.
זה בטח איפשהו שם. אם אני עדיין רואה אותך, זה אומר שזה עדיין פתוח.
כן, אבל אני לא...
בכל מקרה, ממש תודה, זה היה מקסים. זה היה ממש הרצאות יפות. תודה רבה, יאללה, אני אסגור את זה עכשיו, אני אשלח לך את זה באימייל.
אוקיי.
ביי.
ביי ביי.